Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Wednesday, the 1st of October. I'm Hilary Entwistle. The first cruise ship of the season, the Sea Princess, originally expected in Tauranga Port this weekend, has cancelled its voyage due to technical issues. About 2,000 passengers booked on the ship's Sydney-Brisbane New Zealand cruise are affected by the cancellation, with the Sea Princess now expected to arrive in Tauranga on October the 18th. The Sea Princess is currently in dry dock at Garden Island in Sydney, awaiting repairs. It was a difficulty in obtaining parts for the repairs that resulted in the voyage being cancelled. 2/3 of all Waikato women are registering with a lead maternity carer within the first 12 weeks of their pregnancy. A just published Waikato District Health Board maternity annual report shows. That means they are able to access important tests and services earlier to keep themselves and their babies healthy. Other women are leaving it too late in their pregnancy and miss early screening and advice of a healthcare professional, says Waikato DHB Clinical Midwife Director Corley Rodd. Waikato has named an unchanged starting lineup for this Thursday night's clash with Auckland at Eden Park. The only change to the matchday 22 sees prop James McGugan return from suspension to take a spot on the bench, with one more player still to be added to the reserves. Uncapped halfback Troy Lobendown will get another chance to make his Waikato debut after watching on from the bench against Manawatu on Saturday. The Work-Life Pathways program has been getting glowing reviews from students and employees alike as the first group of students go through the program and get a genuine experience of industrial work in Kawerau. The program is the brainchild of the Community and Training Group within Industrial Symbiosis Kawerau. Their vision was to provide high school students with an insight into work available in local industry in the hope that they would see a future for themselves in that area. Although the students were matched with a role and an industry partner, they still went through a realistic process, including providing an application form and CV job interview, inductions, health and safety training, and even personalised protective equipment for work. Now for the marine forecast, West Coast, Raglan. It's turning early on Thursday with a westerly of 20 knots. Your high tide is at 4:52 p.m. East Coast Bay Plenty rising to a northwest 20 knots. Mainly fine, rain at night though. Your high tide is at 1:56 in the afternoon. Just ahead, we look at the uniqueness of some of our smaller towns in the region. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Whangamata is a small town located on the southeast coast of the Coromandel Peninsula. A popular beach town that is well known for events such as Beach Hop. Amanda Harper talks to Pete Stretch, a local resident, about how he compares it to living in the city.
Well, I first moved there in 2010, and apart from a couple of years when I went back to Auckland for work, I've been there ever since. It's chalk and cheese. I love the pace of life. I like feeling part of a community like that. It's really part of my DNA, I think you'd say, from a small town myself in England. So, and it is stunningly beautiful. That's the main thing about it. It is so exciting to get up in the morning. I live near the beach and, you know, why wouldn't you?
Much more relaxed.
Absolutely, and but the other thing was I wouldn't have been able to do that without the internet.
Yeah.
And although you know, it's still there's a lot of room for improvement where we are, but it's made me be able to do my work as a composer and photographer.
Mm-hmm. So you were in Auckland beforehand.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Auckland?
When I left, I was producing and directing documentaries with Peter Blake, and my 5-year plan was to travel around with Peter, and then of course, you know, the tragedy happened, and it was absolutely a cathartic moment. A friend had a place in Whangamata I'd never been, and 7 weeks later I'd moved, and it was like the most right decision in my life. It was brilliant.
So were you supposed to be with Sir Peter Blake in the Amazon?
Indeed I was, and the only reason was my children at the time were very young, and it was 10 months away, and it was a difficult decision, but as it turned out, you know, maybe the most fortuitous thing for me.
Yeah, and then that's how you ended up in
Whangamata,
Whangamata.
yeah, so
Yeah,
serendipity, it works every time.
definitely. Now, what makes your town so special?
I think the fact is that physically it's a very engaging town, because you've got the estuary at one end and the harbour at the other, and hills around, and the word cosy comes to mind. It's a very cosy town, and as I said, the beach it's one of the greatest beaches in the world. There's no two ways about that. But the people in there, that's also changed. Excuse me. In the time I first went, it was very much a retirement place, and still is to a certain extent. But there's a dynamism of young people coming into the town who can actually work from home because of technology.
That is true. Now, the population does swell over the summer. Does that mean that it's a bit of a ghost town during the winter?
It's an interesting phrase, isn't it, ghost town? Because, I mean, I never feel that way. And, in fact, there's a lot of locals who go, this is great, there's nobody here. So, yeah, it is quiet, but I don't say it's a ghost town. If you look, there's always lots going on. And that's for everyone. The only people missing out, and I make a plea for this, are teenagers, young people.
New Zealand is lucky to have a selection of quaint beach towns. Why not make a trip to Whangamata this summer and experience what they have to offer? Excessive sugar consumption is linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, tooth decay and premature ageing. Anne-Marie spoke with a nutritionist, Jake Campus, and asked his opinion on the hot topic of sugar.
Sugar is a non-essential nutrient, so it is a form of carbohydrate. It's the most broken down form, okay? So glucose is readily absorbed in the body, whereas carbohydrates, we really want to be looking at things such as, you know, your grains and your lower GI carbohydrates. They're better for your body. They won't cause a release of insulin from the pancreas when consumed. So sugar is really non-essential in a human diet.
So what are some safe sugar substitutes?
Personally, I recommend stevia-based products such as Nativia. I'm a big fan of that. It's essentially like a herb. There are things like Equal and Splendor. The thing with these products is there's not a lot of long-term research out on there. They're a sugar molecule that has a carbon dioxide atom bound to it, which means that it passes through the body, but it triggers a similar release as sugar, so you still crave that sugar taste, and then your liver and kidneys have to digest and process all of that toxic material to get it through.
We tend to label foods good and bad, with the bad foods normally full of sugar, and then they get given as treats or rewards. What's the psychology around that?
I think it starts from an early age. You know, parents use food as a reward to get children to do things, and that really is not a good start. That breeds that, hey, a chocolate bar, if I'm good, I get a chocolate bar. So whenever the person's feeling like they've done something well, they rely on food for that extrinsic boost. Really, food shouldn't be a reward. It should be something we can enjoy in all forms of moderation. That takes that sort of good and bad out of it, that we can have a little bit of this, but we should be mostly eating that.
Should we be thinking more about the language we use around food?
Definitely, I think language and how it's used, once again referring to that reward system with children, that really is something that I've worked with childcare groups to steer them clear of doing that, rather than saying, hey, if you come to the supermarket, I'll give you a chocolate bar. Hey, if you come to the supermarket, we'll go and have a game of Tiggy outside when we get back, or we'll go for a bike ride. Something else that doesn't revolve around giving them a so-called bad food as a reward, because that in turn leads to patterns throughout adult life as well.
Research has proven that high sugary foods have a negative impact on our health, yet those foods still make it into the school lunch boxes. Where does the responsibility lie for this?
Well, the consumer is responsible. At the end of the day, it's your money, it's your child. You should be putting in your child what you believe is the right amount of, nutrients. But education's the key. Maybe some people don't know what they should be giving them. cheap and convenient is also probably the higher sugar foods. The best things I can recommend is, educating yourself as a parent to know what is the best balance of food for a child, things you should steer clear of. My tips are stay away from things with packets, shop around the outside of the supermarket, so your fruit and veggie aisles, nuts and cheeses, yogurts, things like that, rather than little biscuits and treats in packets. Although they're easy to throw in a lunchbox, they're full of preservatives, high in sugar and salts.
For more information and advice on nutrition, contact Jake at jakecampus.com. Coming up next on the program, Avenue Q. Welcome back to Central News. Hamilton Operatic Society is one of the oldest musical theatre groups in New Zealand, and this year presents the hilarious musical Avenue Q at Clarence Street Theatre from the 21st of November through to the 13th of December. Anne-Marie spoke with some of the cast to find out more about Avenue Q.
Well, Avenue Q is basically a show that's a take on Sesame Street, and it's sort of more of an adult version, and it's about a group of 20 and 30-somethings who live in New York. Basically a bunch of friends who come together and just about life really, poverty, racism, about trying to find your way in the world.
Nick, it's a show with puppets, but it's not a show for kids, is it?
No, it's not really a show for kids. The issues that we address in Avenue Q, such as poverty, sexuality, racism, are addressed in quite an irreverent sort of way. There are a couple of scenes, a couple of intimate scenes between puppets that probably you wouldn't get away with if it were actual human actors, but because it's puppets, we can get away with it.
Now, Tim, it's based on the Sesame Street style of puppeteering. Mm-hmm. What's that like for the audience? Because they can actually see both cast member and puppet at the same time.
Well, as you can see, it's basically us and the puppet.
That's right. Yeah, it's just you and me on stage, baby.
And basically, I think for the first 20 minutes or so, it can be quite sort of interesting. The audience members are watching us and the puppets as well. But within sort of a space of time, then the puppets seem to take on a life of their own, really.
That suspension of disbelief kicks in, and I suppose your focus shifts onto the puppets and the whole storyline.
Oh yeah, we just ignore everyone else on stage and you just want to check out us.
Rod, I better... Rod? Tricky Monster.
My name's actually Nikki. That's Rod.
I'm Rod.
Oh gosh, now I'm getting all confused between them. So how have you found the whole process so far?
Well, the whole process has been kind of weird. Like I said, I've got this guy over here who's got his hand up my butt, which is a bit interesting. But
the whole process has been really interesting. Like I said, the puppets do tend to take on a life of their own, and they do become part of us. And it's been really interesting because I'm not a puppeteer, so I've had to literally learn all about puppeteering and build up some arm muscles. But it's been a lot of fun.
Nick, what's your background?
My background in theatre, I've been involved in the theatre community in Hamilton for probably about 19 years now. He's very, very talented, stop it. As an actor, director, MC, I've been involved with Hamilton Operatic for that whole length of time. I started at Operatic. This will probably be my 30-something show for Hamop.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Rod, tell me, how are you finding the whole process? What's Nick like to work with?
Nick is an amazing, amazing person to work with. I couldn't have chosen a better puppeteer. I interviewed so many different people to work with me specifically because I feel I'm one of the most important people in Avenue Q. My name is Rod. I'm in Avenue Q, which is on this Christmas. Come and see it. I'm enjoying the whole process. It's just wonderful.
So, Tim, tell me about the Avenue Q production. It is a musical. It has been on Broadway. Tell me about what is an audience member going to expect when they come to the show?
I think audience members are going to expect a lot of laughs. It's something different for Hamilton, and I think it's just an amazing show. And like I said, it's not just sort of rude adult comedy. There's a lot of sort of heart and soul in the show, and it's very, very cleverly done. So the songs are funny and very, very heartwarming, and there's some scenes in there that sort of tug at the heartstrings as well. So it's got pretty much everything. So humour and visually it just looks incredible, and it's, like I said, it's really challenging for us too. So coming up with 3 different voices and 3 different puppets, and rushing off stage and coming back and doing another puppet.
So tell me about your character in the show. You two flat together.
Yeah,
and
we flat together, and he's so anally retentive. He just does everything. He even irons his underwear.
you iron your underwear. What's that about?
No one else is going to do it for me, so, well, Nikki wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't touch your underwear.
So, Nikki, what do you do? Do you work?
No, I'm currently unemployed. Well, actually, I'm between jobs. I have been looking, but there's just so many great things on the TV that I just don't really want to work. But Rod's always at me that I need to find a job, so I just haven't found my purpose yet.
And Rod, what do you do?
I'm an investment banker.
I wouldn't have guessed that, but you're very snappily dressed.
Well, I dressed up for this interview today. I have several other outfits that I wear throughout the show, but this is my favourite.
So, Nick, tell me about the puppets. Are they the same ones used in the Broadway production?
They're very similar to the Broadway production puppets. When you purchase the rights to put on Avenue Q, there's a clause in there that the puppets need to be made by a certain company, have the same kind of looks and operate the same way. So there's very little difference between these puppets and the ones used on Broadway. The heads actually detach because there's costume changes. So the head pops onto different costumes depending on the scene.
Of course there are costume changes.
We even have some naked puppets.
Of course you do. What's the most challenging thing about this production so far? How are you enjoying it though as well?
I'm loving it. Basically, we're a family, so rehearsals are quite funny, so we tend to get together and have a lot of laughs, which is really good because, you know, the music, we're learning the music and it is quite hard, but a lot of fun, and again, like I said before, the challenge is definitely the puppets and building up some arm muscles to be able to work with these guys.
No lightweight. So Nick, how are you finding it all so far?
Yeah, it's an interesting process actually working with puppets. Normally when we go into rehearsal, we've got our scripts in our hands when we start blocking the show. But because we've got our hands full, we need to have our lines down before we actually start the blocking process. And yeah, just really need to work on our using muscles that you're not normally using is quite a challenge.
We look forward to seeing you at Clarence Street Theatre coming up to the Christmas season in Hamilton.
We look forward to seeing you too.
Thank you for having us.
Avenue Q runs from the 21st of November through to the 13th of December at Clarence Street Theatre in Hamilton. Tickets are available through ticketek.co.nz. Coming up next, world famous in New Zealand, Paeroa, of course. Welcome back. Paeroa, more commonly known for the iconic lemon and Paeroa fizzy drink bottle. The small town, located at the foot of the Coromandel Peninsula, has a lot more to offer than just a quick picture with the giant L&P bottle. Town promoter Joe Tisley talks to Amanda Harper.
Joe, Paeroa is associated with the fizzy drink L&P. What else does your hometown have to offer any visitors?
Of course, we're very proud of our history with being associated with L&P, and people do love to come and have their photograph taken with the bottle, but we are so much more than that. You go for a walk down the street and you'll find that we're very friendly, we're very open, we're caring. We offer a community. You know, people are moving into Paeroa because they want that sense of community, and we've got it.
And you can offer that. Now, the Vintage and Classic Car Show was held recently. How did that go?
It was a great day. The weather probably hampered it a little bit. I don't think people believe me when I say that the weather is always perfect in Paeroa when we have events, but it actually is. We had probably about 85 cars turn up on the day, which was awesome. We had the Historical Reenactment Society there doing a mock World War II battle, which was quite exhilarating and just a little bit scary. And of course that night we rolled into our first ever retro fashion show, which was awesome. Packed house, all of the clothing sourced from businesses within Paeroa, and it was about retro fashion but with a modern twist. Awesome night.
So when you say retro, like what decade?
No particular era. So yeah, our stylist did an amazing job. She obviously has this real look. Like when I saw the clothes, I was thinking, my goodness, my grandmother wore that, and my mother wore that. But then she popped them on our models, and it looked really funky and modern, and a bit eclectic too. So really cool.
And what else is coming up in the next few months for Paeroa?
Okay, so probably the next big event for us is the first Saturday in November, and it's the Paeroa Lions annual Guy Fawkes display. So for probably, I think it's about 19 or 20 years now, our local Lions have been putting on a display in our local domain. $15 for a family. They're telling me that this year they're doing something that has never been seen before in the Western Bay, in the Coromandel, in the wider Waikato area. In fact, they threatened me with, well, actually death if I spilled their secrets. So
you know the secret?
I know some of the secrets, yeah, and I'm saying nothing.
Now, how does hosting events throughout the year, like not just in the summer, how does that help benefit the community?
It's all about bringing people into town. It's about being able to showcase what we have to offer. Obviously, there's an economic benefit for our businesses. People come to town, they get out of their cars, they buy that cup of coffee, they buy that dress they didn't know they needed. And also, too, it gives people a taste of what we have to offer. And as I said before, we've got more and more people actually moving into Paeroa that realising that they can sell up in the larger areas, buy the home of their dreams, have money left over, and they find this warm and welcoming community.
Paeroa, world famous in New Zealand. Now for the weather for Thursday. Hamilton, mainly fine with some late rain. Northwest breeze, your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 9. The rest of the Waikato fine with isolated afternoon showers inland. Light winds for you. Paeroa, your expected high is 18 and an overnight low of 7. Matamata 16 and 6. Te Awamutu 18 and 4. And Tokoroa 16 and 3. Moving over to Tauranga, mainly fine with late rain. There is a northwesterly developing as well. Your expected high is 18 and an overnight low of 10. The rest of the Bay of Plenty, mainly fine. Scattered rain about the eastern ranges, clearing in the evening, and southerlies dying away. Te Puke, you can expect a high of 16 and an overnight low of 7. That is Central News for today. You can like us on Facebook, centralnews.tv, or email us news@tvcentral.co.nz. Join me again tomorrow night for more stories from the Bay of Plenty and the Waikato. I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.